Welcome back to Edgework on the Hammer Betting Network, a daily live NHL show Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You can find us on YouTube as Edgework, on Twitter at Edgework Show, and you can track all of our picks in the BetStamp app. And you click that Find Betters button. You can find us on there as Edgework. We are up on the year. I think we took a little bit of a hit thanks to Alex Moretto coming back to the show on Tuesday, but it's all good. You can let him know how he screwed us over, fading the Leafs, taking Anaheim plus 2.5, and that was his big play, but what a mistake. Rob is back this week, so we have a full four-man crew here, and Andy, I see you switched hats right before the show started. Is that one of the hats that you're giving away on Twitter at Digital Gambler on Twitter?
I don't know. Maybe it is. No, I've got a box of 15 hats. I'm splitting them up into five hats, three different boxes. Gonna give those away to just randomly to some of my followers. That if you head on over to my Twitter account, you can see the tweet there pinned to my profile. Just retweet that, comment with your favorite team, not necessarily NHL. There's some. I'm not saying you're gonna get your favorite team, but I'll try to stay away from the ones you hate and the ones you and maybe throw in one you like if it works out. But yeah, I'm gonna give some hats away. I fucking love these hats. 47 brand clean up hats, most comfortable hats out there. I've got like 40 of them now. It's kind of getting out of hand.
Do you sign them before you give them away?
I'll sign them with something. So there will be some bodily fluid in the package.
The sweat and tears of you putting the package together is what he's referring to, everyone.
Sure.
All right, let's dig into some of the games that were underway last night. Let's start with the Pittsburgh Penguins. They go into Florida. They win this one 4-2 on the road. Letang, a goal and an assist, and this is coming about a week after he's had his second stroke since being in the NHL. This one holding him out for much shorter period of time than his previous stroke, but still absolutely incredible when you consider this guy has had two strokes during his time in the NHL. He's come back to play after both of them and is still a very good defender. And he joins this Pittsburgh team that was rolling before he left, continued to roll after he left, and then is still rolling while he comes back here. They're 8-1-1 in their last 10. They're on a 7-game win streak. 9-3-2 at home, 9-5-2 on the road. It doesn't matter where they play, when they play, or who they play. This Pittsburgh team right now, Rob, they continue to be dominant.
Yeah, they were kind of unlucky earlier in the year where they were playing well and not getting results. But you look at since the beginning of December for the Penguins, they're just short of plus 10 expected goals in December. We're not even halfway through the month. So they've been playing really good hockey, and they've finally been getting the results that go with it. I'm very impressed with their D-core just in general. They don't have a single D-man who's dragging them down right now. Marcus Pettersson has been great for them so far this year. I'm always, yeah. I mean, I'm always concerned about the third line with Pittsburgh. That's the one that bothers me a bit. Carter, McGinn, and Kapanen's back in the lineup now after, being a healthy scratch for a while. I do think that they inevitably are going to have to make some upgrades, especially in that third, that third line for their forward group if they're going to be competitive going forwards. But we're now seeing like them on the opposite end of like the luck spectrum where they continue to put together those good games generally, and they're getting good goaltending, good defense, and they're finally starting to get the results. So I think the Penguins are a legit contender. I do think that they'll eventually make some upgrades, but they've been a team that I've been looking to back now for, I probably bet on them more than any team in the league this year, if I'm being honest with myself. And it's finally nice to start seeing the results over the course of the last, 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, I was on the Penguins yesterday against the Panthers. I got a really good price, kind of overnight, early into the day. Pinnacle had better than plus 105. A lot of other books had around that price as well. Did not know Matthew Tkachuk was going to miss the game. That was a bit of a surprise, but I was really, really surprised where that game closed. I thought the Pens should be, kind of minus 115 on average, and against the Panthers and Sergei Bobrovsky. And they were, still available at -105, -110, even after the Kachuk news. And I was a little surprised by that. I thought that they should have closed higher, but they played well. And yeah, like I don't know if. I don't know if they're like a wagon right now, but they are definitely a contender for sure, and a team that I think is clearly being a little bit undervalued more often than not.
Yeah, this is a Penguins team I've ridden on a couple of times through the different streaks, and like you mentioned with Letang coming back, that's just incredible. One, for a guy to have 2 strokes before the age of 40 or 50, he's going to be 36 soon. That's remarkable that he still has this long of a career and come back, get a goal and an assist in the last game. And now, if you look back, the last 9 games he's been in the lineup, Penguins are 8-1. So as you mentioned, Rob, that defensive core getting better, which is something we haven't been able to say about the Penguins for years. They've always had injuries on that blue line, and really when they've struggled, it's been because of the goaltending and the defense. Now that they're getting that on top of Sidney Crosby, who he's also kind of quietly, as big of a superstar as he is, and we talk about him all the time, but he's quietly putting up some big numbers. And to see these veterans.
What are the leaders at 5-on-5 in goals per 60 right now? I think he's third in the league right now. Yeah. So really having a great season.
Yeah, so to see these veterans, continue to flourish, after all these years of winning and playing hard hockey, playoff hockey over the years, their bodies have taken a toll, but they're looking really good right now. They're one of those teams to watch out for in the East.
Was there any update on Malkin last night? So he scored. It was a Crosby slap shot that went off his knee, dropped him like a ton of bricks to the ice. It went in the net. They go up 3-1. I think it was the 3-1 goal. And then he had to. He was down, man. He was in a lot of pain. You rarely see guys get hit with shots and be in that much pain. So I'm kind of worried about him.
I have not seen an update on Malkin yet either.
Yeah, I haven't read anything.
Probably just a stinger, if I had to guess. Like, just really got him good, but it was inside the knee, so who knows? It was a weird shot, man. And like, I was talking to my dad the other day about just how crazy it is. You see guys like they wind up a third of the way, and they're shooting the puck like 90. Like, it was only like 10 or 15 years ago that we thought 100 was just a crazy speed. Wow, that's insane. Look, Chara can slap shot the puck. Faster than anybody else. Now everybody does that. It's crazy.
You never know with those shots either. Not to bring it all back to Toronto, but John Tavares took one of those like 3 weeks ago, where it looked like he was he was down on the ice and they had to carry him off the ice, and he came back into the same game afterwards. Yeah. So you never know with those, but like I think some of those just like they hit you and like immediate pain that it's hard to shake for a little bit, and then eventually you just get over it and you're back.
I thought Rob was going to talk about like Mitch Marner shooting the puck 90 or something there. No. One thing we've talked about on this show before is goaltenders and their importance. Well, that's couldn't possibly be more evident than what's going on in Carolina right now. You kind of have a situation where your starting goaltender goes down, and I mean, if you followed him through his time in Toronto, you'd know that it's no surprise he's going to go out and miss a bunch of the season and probably practice and then tell everybody that he can't come back, and Freddie Anderson, because that's just what he does. But that's just me being a bitter Leafs fan who watched him do that over and over again here. But then they also lose their backup, and then they have to go to Peter. I hope I'm saying that right. Peter Kochetkov. He's 8-1-4 on the season so far. 202 goals against average, a .923 save percentage. He's tied for the league lead in shutouts with 3 right now. Rob, is it time to maybe jump on the Kochetkov train for the Vezina?
So the first thing I noticed last night is the game started. They haven't given up a goal yet. I'm like, I got to see if anybody's still got a market on this guy to win Calder, because, I mean, Matty Beniers at this point is probably the runaway favorite. I think he's got 22 points now in 29 games. There's no one really that's going to challenge him. Maybe Logan Thompson, but if Kochetkov plays a lot and continues to put up these numbers, how do you not throw a dart at 20-1? Like I'm at pulling up DraftKings right now, 20-1. Starting goalie, being there for a while. I mean, the numbers are not just like luck numbers either, right? 6.92 goals saved above expected in 13 starts. He had the back-to-back shutouts before last night. We know Carolina is going to win games. That's kind of important as well, right? At the end of the season,
they're getting healthy too.
Exactly. So
But what do they do with Ranta when Anderson comes back? What do they do here? What do you think is the path forward as far as like they've got to get rid of one of these guys when Anderson comes back? So
I never know with that organization because they traded Nedeljkovic when
yeah, true.
Everyone was like, how the hell could you do that? And they kind of turned out to be
Apparently
right.
They were really smart for doing that.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what they'll do, but I assume Ranta's just going to be the odd man out at this point. I mean, really the next month or so will tell, I guess, with the way Kochetkov plays here. But 20-1 to me just seems like I like throwing darts on starting goalies when they come in and they're going to get a bunch of starts for a good team, especially. And I think that that's a pretty decent, widely available bet right now.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And honestly, this is a guy that I watched his run with the Chicago Wolves. He won the Calder Cup. Basically, I mean, the performances he turned in that Western Conference final and the Calder Cup final were tremendous. And a lot of people were saying that this guy could be the goalie of the future for Carolina, even though they had a bunch of other guys, that Jack LaFontaine in their system at one point, and then he moved on. Like you mentioned, Ranta and Anderson, guys who can't stay healthy. I'm sure one of them will probably get moved, with a lot of teams needing some backup help moving forward. So, they're in a good spot. And if Kochetkov, like they can keep riding him and get that kind of hot run, maybe, a Jordan Bennington type run, who knows what they could do.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about him too is that he is apparently like a really big team guy, and somebody that everybody loves in the locker room. He's pretty outspoken, I guess. He's like a fiery guy, not in the way that Jordan Bennington is, like the bad way, but I think the team rallies around that and likes to play in front of this kid. So it's it's something that he's definitely set himself up to be the goaltender in Carolina for a while.
He's got some fire in him too. There was a clip of him almost getting into a fight during the playoffs last year. So if Bennington tried to run his mouth and it's a Carolina St. Louis game, we might actually get to see a goalie fight. So.
That would be awesome.
It would be.
That would be awesome.
I'm seeing a comment here as well from International Cow saying LeBron wrote this morning that they're going to carry 3 goalies.
Oh wow! Thanks for the comment. That's interesting, and that's good thing for Rob's bet for sure. That they're going to continue. That they're not going to send him down to the minors or whatever.
Yeah, but if anybody else wants to comment on the show, you can head over to the YouTube channel, Edgework. You can comment in real time, ask questions, provide info like that, engage with us. We'll read the comments, bring them up on screen, and go throughout the show. Unfortunately, we don't see them in real time on Twitter, so if you have commented already or you would like to comment and you are on Twitter, make sure to head over to YouTube to do so. Andy, another game that kind of went on last night, it's actually the hat that you're wearing right now. The Buffalo Sabres end up defeating the Colorado Avalanche. I didn't get to watch this game. I was talking to Rob and Alex prior to, and I said basically I went to the box score, look up what happened, read the game feed, and then go to Money Puck and pull up the deserve to win meter. And Rob was telling me this one was a little bit misleading. If you look at the deserve to win meter, it's 76% of the time the Avs deserve to win the game last night. But Buffalo jumps out to a 2-0 lead early on in the game. Tage Thompson grabs goal number 24 on the year. Then they just hang on to defeat the Colorado Avalanche. Kind of what's going on there?
I think if you watch the game, Buffalo had a really good start, and obviously they scored early and got that lead. And while it did look like they were merely just kind of hanging on for parts of that game, I do think that they had a plan. They went in there and they really tried hard to keep the Avs to the outside, and I think a lot of what Colorado did last night was more quantity than quality. And the Buffalo could have been up big time early, at the end of the first period, even after they were up 2-0. They had 3 or 4 chances where they could have buried a couple more goals, and like I said, they hung on and whatnot, but the Avs are just not good right now. They're obviously they can still outplay teams to some degree, and they've got obviously when you see guys like Nichushkin and Rantanen out there doing their thing, you kind of forget that they're injured, because they do look like such a good team at times throughout the game. But this team has not been scoring lately, and Buffalo is just a great offensive team right now. Defensively, obviously they're a mess at points. I don't think they're going to be able to sustain any level of like great defensive play, but they're definitely heading in the right direction. And I think the Sabres are worth a look at times. You've got to pick your spots and whatnot, I guess, but they were definitely undervalued at heading into that game. I got them around at plus 160, actually a little bit better than that, I think, at most shops. And they were around plus 145, but then Owen Power tweaks something in warmups, doesn't play, so that could have been disastrous. It wasn't, but yeah, Buffalo is definitely. I mean, like the goaltending is always going to be a concern. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen was like phenomenal last night at times, but yeah, like I think the Sabres are just they're a different team. They're not like the Devils that are where they can dominate you, but their underlying metrics are solid. They're not a bad team, and they've got guys like. You watch Tage Thompson, Alex Tuch coming down the rush. Like these guys are skilled players and they can, really make you pay. So I think Buffalo is going to continue to score goals all season. Like they're 3-4 goals is probably their baseline for most games. And they've got a streak now of 25 games where they've gone over in most of them, I think. And it's just a fun hockey team that I'm going to be looking to bet on them as much as I reasonably can throughout the rest of the season, as long as the market doesn't catch up too much, because I think they're a break-even team kind of. So,
yeah, I agree with it. Like if you look at Buffalo in the standings right now, like just sort by overall in the league, the teams around them are Montreal, Vancouver, St. Louis, Ottawa, Philly. Like the Sabres are miles better than all of those teams. Like the Sabres are the best bad team, quote unquote, like bad team in the league. Like they're significantly better than all those teams around them in the standings. So eventually, I mean, they have games where like their defense is such a huge liability, and that's what's going to end up costing them a lot of times, where they play great games and then all of a sudden it's just like a couple pucks end up in the back of the net. But overall, I'm very optimistic about that team going forwards. And if you get good underdog prices on them, they're like a team that's live in every game, in my opinion. Like they could win any game, any night against any team. And you can't say that for you can say that for every other team, but it's just,
they're live. I'm much more like they are like they're in it. That's what I just want to bet on teams that are in games. Like, I mean, even if that team is one that can go down 3 or 4-0 in the first period, they're still in games because they have so much offensive skill. And in today's league, I mean, I think you look at their underlying metrics and you compare them to a team like Nashville, and it's probably pretty similar in a lot of ways. Like they're not that far apart in a lot of ways, but Nashville just doesn't have the same type of offensive skill. So it's like it just puts the Sabres in a bit of a different class when you're talking about things from a betting perspective.
I've said it a week ago. Buffalo is one goaltending upgrade and maybe a veteran blue liner addition away from being a legit wildcard contender.
I wouldn't count out Eric Comrie. Like he had a rough start to the season. He's injured and stuff, but like I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back at some point and is really good. Like he has pedigree. He was a high draft pick, and I think you can't really count those guys out. So I don't think they're in a terrible position as far as goaltending. I don't think he was a bad bet, and I think it's too early to say whether. Can y'all talk about today's slate already, Dave?
I want the picks. Where are the picks?
Today's slate sucks, Dave. That's why we're kind of stalling here. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, maybe we can.
The nicest way I was ever told to shut the fuck
up. All right, Dave. We'll get to it for you. Let's start with the battle of. I mean, I guess this is going to be a little bit of a conflict for Alex here. Minnesota and Chicago going head to head. Chicago is last in the NHL. They've been a really terrible team all season long. But on the other side, you've got the Minnesota Wild, who are starting to win some games, getting in a more solid position out in the West there. You're looking at this game here tonight. Best odds on it. It's moved a little bit since before we started the show, but Chicago plus 358, Minnesota minus 380 best odds. You got to really shop around and find that price. It's mostly minus 400 elsewhere. But I mean, Alex, take us through the this little battle you've got going on internally here in this game tonight.
Well, it's not really that much of an internal battle. I'm a Hawks fan for life. I'm currently here in Chicago, but they are absolute garbage, and they're a team you can't touch with a 50-foot pole. Minnesota, they've been winning ugly as of late. They won 9 of the last 12 games. But when you're struggling at home against Anaheim and Arizona, and you're blowing 4-1 leads against Dallas and get lucky to win in a shootout, I mean, the points are what matters. It looks great in the standings. They're third now in the Central after having an abysmal start, but they're just finding ways to, they're scratching and clawing in every game against teams that they should be putting away if they want to be a legitimate contender in the West.
Yeah.
That being said, the Hawks, I mean, they just can't get out of their own way. They've been held to 1 goal or fewer in 4 of the last 5 games. They should have got shut out last night. Logan Thompson stood on his head, and the Hawks just can't generate anything right now. And Minnesota's been dominant against the Hawks. They've won 6 in a row. I think they start off hot and early. If you shop around, you could still find some even money with laying a half a goal in the first period, but I'd probably lay $1.10 here. And I don't do that too often. Usually I want to look for a big plus price when laying that half a goal in the first period, but I just don't see where the Hawks get off any great chances. More than likely going to be Mrazek in net after Soderblom played last night. Mrazek's been awful. His goal saved above average. I know he's toward the bottom, and just he hasn't looked the same coming off these back-to-back groin issues. You see his post-to-post movement; it's much slower now. And I mean, it's great for the Hawks in the long run. We're trying to get Connor Bedard, but as far as betting value goes, you can't look for anything Hawks related. You got to look at their opponents' team totals, first period overs, first period puck lines. That's the best way to go when the Hawks are playing.
Yeah, and you guys in Chicago are hard for Bedard, and whoever this is in the chat here seems to be as well. But
I'll check that out.
Love the porn spam bots. You're doing something right when the porn spam bots are on you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we locked that in on the BetStamp app, just so everybody knows. As edge work, you can track that in real time, see the picks in real time as they come in.
Yeah, it's just I think this is a situation where you look at like a team like Chicago. They're a team that I look to bet at when they're playing on home, or bet against, sorry, when they're playing at home a lot more. I think the market kind of overvalues their home ice advantage that they really don't have, and you can get some decent prices. I mean, they've had some pretty good teams come in and play them, priced around the -190, -200 area. That probably should have been -240, -250 in those games, like the Winnipeg Jets and whatnot. And yeah, so I think Chicago's a team that I'm kind of weary of, betting against in any way when they're on the road at these prices. So it makes it pretty tough.
There isn't a worse crowd than a 6:00 home start for the Blackhawks. It's been like that for years. Absolutely dead silent. If they don't get a goal in the first 30 seconds, it's like half the crowd falls asleep.
I think
inside info right there, guys.
Yeah, Tyler Johnson re-aggravated his injury last night too, right? He finally came back after 6 weeks, hurt his ankle again. So nothing's going right for that team. I mean, maybe it is going right for them if it ends up with Bedard being the pick, right?
Yeah.
You can't say that. But I mean, like Mrazek's a disaster. I only back Chicago or even consider backing them if Soderblom is starting. And like maybe if they went to Soderblom again today, you can maybe justify like a dart at +350 or whatever, just because he's actually capable of stealing a game, whereas Mrazek is not anymore.
Yeah,
but
and I think Alex made a great point there. The Wild just don't run away with any games, and they very well could run away with this game today because Chicago is the worst offensive team in the league. They're the worst defensive team in the league, but I think it's it's still a pretty tough price.
Yep.
Yeah, Soderblom, or if you follow Alex on Twitter at AXSmithSports, yeah, you see him tweet Soderbum yesterday. I'm scrolling through my timeline, I just see Soderbum.
He gives up the softest goals. He'll make 5 great saves, and all of a sudden he gives up a goal that a high schooler could stop. So.
Fair enough. Next game here tonight, St. Louis, Calgary. St. Louis heading into Calgary for this one. We're currently sitting at +196 best price. Calgary -200. That one is a little off mark. You can kind of find them around -210, 215 to 220 if you're looking at some of the other places here on this game here tonight. But St. Louis, they've got a whole bunch of players in the trade rumor mill now. I mean, obviously, anytime star players are going to come up, you're going to see some of them associated with Toronto, like Ryan O'Reilly was with the I think it was Pierre LeBrun report the other day, but I mean, that is a team that's going to have to start looking and trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do out there, because they're 11th in the West. They're 3 points out of a playoff spot, but they're tied with Vancouver in that division. And they're basically kind of doing the same thing where you don't really want to be in no man's land where you just miss the playoffs and you get a shitty draft pick. They're on a 2-game win streak right now, 4-5-1 in their last 10. Have not been great. They're kind of just up and down. They're there. They exist. And Calgary is a team everyone thought was going to be a whole lot better coming into this season, and it just hasn't really worked out for them so far. They're tied with Colorado for points for the last spot in the Western Wild Card, but they're out technically based on points percentage. And right now they're on a 4-game losing streak, having lost to Columbus, Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver. I mean, I don't really know what to make of this game as you go into it. I would give Calgary the edge, obviously. But, Rob, do you think this is fair? Minus 200 for Calgary at home against St. Louis?
So one of the issues, I guess, with evaluating this game now is we have no idea what the goaltending matchup will be in this game. And I could see it being either Markstrom or Vladar, and I could see it being either Greiss or Binnington. Regardless of who it is, though, all 4 of those goalies this year have a GSA below 0, goal saved above average below 0. Goaltending hasn't been there for either team this year. Now, it's not been like supremely bad like some teams in the NHL, but you're getting pretty inconsistent average to below average goaltending on a nightly basis with a total of 6. In my opinion, I think this is a pretty good overlook. You look at the Blues this year, they've played very limited back-to-backs. The last one they actually did play was a 1-0 game against Nashville. I think that's more of a testament to how Nashville plays the game than necessarily the Blues. But we look at previous Blues back-to-backs this year, they've been in like a lot of high-scoring games. They played the 7-4 game against the Islanders. They had a 5-4 against the Capitals, 5-4 against the Panthers. I think that this total is a little bit underpriced. I was expecting to see over 6 juiced pretty heavily towards the over in like the minus 120 range. And on top of that, the Flames have like a pretty interesting dichotomy in terms of their scoring away from home versus at home. And for some reason or another this year, they've struggled to score when they've been on the road. They had an extended road trip where they didn't score a lot of goals. At home this season, that hasn't been a problem for them. I don't like using arbitrary endpoints, but like if we look at the past month or so, they've played 8 home games. They've scored 3 or more in 7 of those 8 home games. They've scored 5 or more in half of them. I think that there's a pretty decent opportunity to play the over here. I think that you might get a Vladar Greiss game. And honestly, I just see this being more open-ended hockey than the market is kind of capturing right now.
Yeah, so I tend to agree with Rob on all those points. I think I watched a lot of the St. Louis Edmonton game last night, and it was intense. Like every single loose puck had an extra battle for it. Like it was a really high paced game, and I'm curious to see what kind of impact that'll have on the Blues today. But yeah, the Flames, man. Like I'm kind of done. I'm over this team. They were such a fun team last year to ride with. This season, it's been anything but. They are, aside from their home and away splits, they're, a below average team in expected goals on offense. They rank high on defense in terms of goals against and whatnot, but they're still, like Rob said, a ton of concerns about their goaltending. I'm gonna need to see big changes before I'm gonna lay prices like this on the Flames, even against the Blues, and who I think I'm not high on the Blues whatsoever, and I've faded them a lot this season. I think they're one of the teams that I've bet against quite a bit, but I also think that they're a bit healthier. They're healthier now. They might start to play better, right? And their goaltending is going to continue to be a big concern as well. But they've got offense. That's something that the Flames might still struggle with. So I am weary of this Flames team. My only regret is that I didn't bet on them more. I bet against them more over the last week or so because they were offering up some pretty good spots.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I've looked at with the Calgary in the last game, I had the draw with them against Vancouver plus 370. Both of these teams have gone to overtime in 3 straight meetings. So You look at I see a 380 at Caesars right now for the regulation draw, but I do think this will be a high scoring game. Jacob Markstrom, I mean, he was brutal early in the game. He's been brutal in in games throughout the whole year. I think he's given up the first shot for a goal in 6 contests, and I think it was the second and fourth shots that went past him to make it 2-0 Vancouver in their last game. So I would definitely look at that first period over. I see a minus $1.30 at Bet Online. That's a pretty cheap price. Like I said, even whichever way you shake it with the 4 goaltenders that you could possibly get here, all 4 of them have been pretty bad, and especially in early in the first period. So I don't think that's a good look. Minus $1.30 for that first period over.
Yeah, like just before we, I don't know if I guess there's another game. Yeah. So, but like Calgary, their expected goals for percentage at even strength since December 15th, the last month, roughly 51%. Corsi percentage, shot attempt percentage, whatever you want to call it, roughly 53%. They're not dominating anybody like they were last year. This is the team that was up around the the high 50s in a lot of these categories, as far as their percentage, and that's not the case this year. So I'm definitely weary of this team as far as betting on them, especially as big favorites.
Could you imagine how pissed Dave would have been if we spent all that time recapping other games and then only talked about 2 of the 3 games tonight?
Yeah, don't worry, Dave. We'll get to it.
But if you are watching on Twitter, just a reminder to head over to the YouTube if you want to comment. And as Bacon Boy says here, 38 watching, only 6 likes. If you guys could hit that like. But last thing in terms of that Calgary team.
Please don't. Please don't. We don't want the thumbs downs.
Yeah.
We want the thumbs ups.
I can take my pants off.
No, that's for the Edgework OnlyFans channel.
Then you'll see
that's a separate subscription. International Cow saying, I played Calgary 1.52 last night. Have torched so much CLV and money on Calgary this year. Yeah, fair enough. So unfortunate. All right, final game. Barn burner of a game here tonight. I'm sure everyone's going to have this one on their TVs. The Islanders heading to the Arizona State Coyotes University game. The Islanders, I mean, at this point, they're hanging on to the last wild card spot in the East. They're on a 2-game losing streak here, but it's good teams that they lost to. They lost to Boston. They lost to Carolina. They're 5-4-1 in their last 10. They're 1 point up on the Capitals right now in the Eastern Division. I mean, this Islanders team is probably about where they should have been last year, taking away that absurd beginning that they had where they couldn't play at home. Then they dealt with all the COVID and injuries and stuff throughout the season. That's kind of just a one-off year. It was really, really poor. They're not the greatest team. They are getting a lot of help from an incredible goaltender that they have back there and probably good goaltending tandem even at that. But going up to face a very, very, very bad Arizona team who at least competes on a nightly basis. You're at least seeing this one minus 172 for the Islanders tonight, plus 158 for the Coyotes. Alex, is there anything in this one that kind of stands out to you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm sure the Islanders can sympathize with the Arizona Coyotes. They had a 15-game road trip early in the year last year when they were building UBS Arena. Of course, Arizona waiting for Mullet Arena to have actual locker rooms. It took them 14 games to be away from home in a month of play. But this is going to be a snooze fest. Thankfully for people on the Central and East Coast, this is a late enough game. You don't need melatonin. Just watch this and you'll fall asleep. I like the draw here. You can find it at plus 347 at Pinnacle. These are 2 teams that always kind of play each other low and slow. There's not much offensive punch, especially with Arizona. They have been getting some good goaltending from Karel Vejmelka. I think he's a guy who we could see get moved by the trade deadline. I think some team could really use his, talent in net way more than Arizona, of course, who they're trying to tank and be one of the worst teams in the league again. Like I said, the Islanders, they're always going to revert back. Their default is playing defensive games. Lane Lambert's a disciple of Barry Trotz. He wants to kind of, throw the body, control the puck possession between the blue lines, not allow a lot of quality shots. I don't think there's going to be much quality from either team in this game offensively. So I like to draw here at plus 347.
I look at this and, what Alex just said about it being a snooze fest. Throwing my model out of this for a minute, I think the Islanders should be priced around minus 185. Sorokin in goal. But I don't like the idea of betting on the Islanders here. I think this is a spot where, if it is a snooze fest, if they do walk into this game a little sleepy, that definitely works in the Coyotes' favor. I think we've seen games from the Islanders where they don't necessarily have great starts and they can get behind and they can have a hard time, digging out of that. So Arizona is a team that I'm obviously not looking to bet on very often. But just based on gut feel, I don't like the Islanders in this spot, and they've maybe it's a personal thing. They've disappointed me in spots where they should have played a lot better this season. So I'm kind of feeling burnt by them, I guess.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I mean, I don't really want to lay expensive prices with the Islanders. They give me a lot of Rangers vibes from last year. I'd much rather back them like in a pesky underdog role when they step up in class, like against the Bruins the other night. They end up losing the game, but that's sort of the better spot for the Islanders. I like a player prop in this game. Anders Lee has not had a great year. He's going through one right now. He's got 1 goal since November 10th. Very unheard of for a player of that stature. But he's steadily been seeing an uptick in ice time recently. This was before Beauvillier was out of the lineup. So he's played 18 plus minutes in 5 of his last 7 games. He's still on power play 1. The thing with Anders Lee, he's a career 14% shooter. He shot 17% last season. This year he's at 10.6%. And he's had 49 medium or high danger unblocked shot attempts in 30 games this season. So he's averaging over 1.5 per game. And he's only generated 9 goals on the season. This is going to turn eventually. I think this is the perfect opponent for it to turn against. The Coyotes, 3.5 goals allowed per 60 minutes in all situations this year. Some people look at this and be like, Anders Lee plus 200, like you're not giving me enough based off the fact he's only got 9 goals this year. I think that Lee is probably a good bet for the foreseeable future. And I do think that he's primed to go on a tear at some point very soon. So I think it starts tonight against the lowly Arizona Coyotes, and I hope that's good enough for Dave in the chat today.
So there you go. There, all of the picks that were given out on today's show, you can track them, find them in real time in the BetStamp app. You click that Find Betters button. You can find us as Edgework there, but picks that were locked in today right now. Minnesota first period puck line plus 100. Calgary, St. Louis first period over 1.5 minus 130. Calgary, St. Louis game total over 6 minus 101. So we are looking for a bunch of goals in that game there. And then
I don't have anything. I'm just going to bet that everybody has fun tonight.
And then going to the Coyotes Islanders game, Anders Lee anytime goal and a regulation time tie in that game there as well. A couple things in the chat real quick. Don Schultz saying Vamelka confirmed. And then Jordan Mosel saying Matthias. I still don't know whether it's Maselli or Michelli. Rob, maybe you can...
I mean, it depends. Like in the Italian, well, it's not... Matthias is the first name. So, but like typically the way that it's spelt would be Michelli. Would be the way that it would be pronounced.
But he's saying Michelli for Calder.
So I looked at this a couple days ago because he has like 20 points this season or in like 25 games, but they're all assists, and that just does not like that doesn't resonate with people.
All
right?
second assists.
Yeah, like 2 goals and 18 assists is not gonna resonate versus Beniers, who I think has 12 goals right now this year. Like there's a pretty sizable gap, even though they're both very close in points. So I looked at the pricing. He's in like the 15-1 range at most books right now. I don't think that's enough to bet a Coyotes player to win the Calder.
And Beniers is playing against like top competition every night. I mean, he's like leading the team, right? Like,
yeah. I really do think outside of Beniers, like there's a pretty big gap. And then you have Logan Thompson, and now I think Kochetkov is like the guy. If you're going to look for a dart, you go for Kochetkov.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Well, thank you to everyone who tuned in here today. You can find us on YouTube as Edgework. Make sure to click subscribe, like this stream if you haven't already, and if you're watching this back, make sure to like it. If you do miss the live streams, you can find us on all podcast platforms, so you can listen to it there. You can also watch it back on Twitter, on our Twitter account at Edgework Show. So make sure to check that out. And if you're looking for any type of other sports content, make sure to go over to the Hammer HQ, where you can find NFL, NBA, more NHL, anything like that. College football, you can find it all there on the Hammer HQ, thehammer.bet. If you're looking for more hockey content, you can also find Alex's stuff, his Twitter at AXSmithSports, and you can find him at the Ice Guys podcast. And you can find Andy. I kind of was like, I wrote something up. I'm like, all right, I'll say this for Andy at the end, but I feel like it might be better if I just intentionally butcher it for you every time, so you have to like jump in and correct me on what it is. But VSiN Pro subscription for Andy. You can find his daily NHL picks.
Yeah, something like that. I
go.
write daily articles. I break down all the games and stuff, but I really just want to focus on promoting my OnlyFans. I've had a hard time getting it off the ground, not getting many subscribers right now. I got one, Alex, but he's the only one so far.
Try to support the team,
We support each other at the Hammer in their endeavors.
Support the team. You've ordered a custom video every single day last week. Like that's a little above support. I mean,
Andy, I will actually ask you. I
thought you were going to say I will subscribe.
No, no, I'm not doing that. You started streaming. You're streaming video games, or
I'm just messing around. I try to decompress a little bit. Hockey used to be a hobby. Now it's over the last 10 years, it's become a job, and video games have kind of taken the hobby spot. So
where can people find you doing that?
When is the Ben the Better competition coming? What's this all about? You got another tortoise?
Well, you said OnlyFans. So he was like, he did have a competition with someone who was running like a OnlyFans account recently, who stiffed him for like 10K. But there actually is. We are in the works. I don't want to promise anything, but we are in the works on a Ben versus Tortellini part 2, probably post football season. So that's likely when it's going to happen. It'll be some sort of hockey and basketball joint competition. And
we should do a calendar, like a 12-month better calendar, where like each guy gets a month and like pose and stuff like that. I think it would do good. We could give the money to Ben.
Just point to your spreadsheet and, in the background and whatever. That would be pretty funny. People don't know this, but me and Andy during COVID, we were trying to kill time, and we were going to stream some video games together. And we played some PGA Tour against each other a few times. And Andy got taken to the cleaners so badly in those matches that he's just like, no, we can't do this. It'll be too embarrassing. Lost by like 16 strokes in an 18-hole match. I don't even know it's possible.
Yeah, you got to stick to Sniper Elite 4.
I thought Andy was gonna have a rebuttal to that. There's
no. This actually happened. This is a true sport. We just sat down.
Absolutely smoked. Uninstalled the game afterwards. Cracked the disc in half.
All right. Well, thank you to everyone who tuned in here today. Again, you can find us on YouTube at Edgework Show. You can find all of our picks on the BetStamp app in the Find Better section as Edgework, and you can find us on Twitter at Edgework Show. Rob, Alex, Andy, thank you guys so much for all the insight today, and I look forward to talking to everyone next Friday.